It all started as a joke. A harmless joke, I thought. But looking back, it was one of the worst decisions I made. It began when I casually tossed a coin into a river, a seemingly innocent act, yet it filled me with an inexplicable dread. I had been wandering through the woods, following a trail I knew well, when I stumbled upon a wide, shallow river just a few miles from my home. Strangely, despite living there for years, I had never come across this river before. It seemed ordinary at first, nothing remarkable. But as I walked along its edge, something caught my eye. A bridge. It wasn't like any bridge I had seen before. There were no roads leading to it, no paths that connected it to anything. It just stood there, a structure in the middle of nowhere, stretching over the water to nothing. The air around it felt heavy, and the longer I stared at it, the more uneasy I became. I walked to the middle of the bridge, leaned over, and stared down at the river below. Absent-mindedly, I pulled a coin from my pocket and flicked it into the water. I waited for the splash, but there was none. Strange. I made a wish anyway, something about passing my exams and graduating. It seemed like a good idea at the time, a little superstition for good luck. After that, life went on. I graduated, got a job, and settled into the routine of being an adult. Years passed, and I stayed busy, working and doing the usual stuff. Then one day I got lucky with a paid vacation. With some time on my hands, I decided to go trekking again, back to the woods I knew so well. The path was familiar, the one that led to the river. When I reached the bridge again, I felt a strange sense of déjà vu. It was as if nothing had changed, like the bridge had been frozen in time. It didn't look worn or aged, exactly the same as the last time I saw it. I shrugged it off and climbed onto it, feeling a strange mix of excitement and unease. I walked to the center again, just as I had before, and tossed another coin into the river below. But as I turned to leave, a strange thing happened. I couldn't move forward. No matter how many steps I took, I kept ending up back near the bridge. The trees around me seemed to close in, the air growing thicker with every breath. I tried again and again to push through, but each time I found myself right back where I started. Minutes dragged by, and I was still stuck in the same loop. I couldn't tell if I was truly lost or just losing my mind. There's an old superstition around here. When something like this happens, it's usually because an encanto or a tikbalang is playing tricks on you. The fix? Wear your shirt inside out to break their hold. So with nothing to lose, I flipped my shirt around and started walking again. But it didn't help. I ended up right back at the bridge, just like before. Only this time, something was different. There was a kid, standing right in the middle of the bridge, facing away from me. He hadn't been there before. The sight of him made my heart race, my skin crawl. The sun was setting, casting long, eerie shadows across the scene, and now fear started to creep in. I wasn't just frustrated anymore, I was scared. I didn't know what to do. Should I call out to him? Ask if he's lost too? He looked normal enough, a small figure standing still in the middle of the bridge. His shirt was inside out too, which caught my eye immediately. Was he trying to escape the same strange loop? Maybe he was lost, just like me. I thought about approaching him. If he was lost, I should help him find his way back. Maybe even take him along the trail until we reach safety. Parents, or anyone. But then the fear crept in deeper. How did he even get here? This was the middle of nowhere, and there he was, barefoot, looking completely out of place. Something didn't feel right. The eerie silence around us made the air feel heavier. My instincts told me to stay away, but I couldn't shake the thought that maybe, just maybe, he needed help. So I did. I called out to him. "Hey kid," I shouted, my voice cutting through the unsettling quiet as I moved closer. He slowly turned around, tears streaming down his face, wiping snot from his nose with the back of his hand. His crying was intense, desperate. I leaned down, trying to comfort him. "Kid, what happened? Why are you here?" I asked, trying to hide my own growing fear. "I'm lost," he whispered between sobs. He couldn't have been more than 6 or 8 years old. The thought of his parents frantically searching for him made me even more determined to help. I asked him more questions, but he just kept crying, refusing to speak. With no other option, I decided to bring him along, hoping to find the way back. But no matter how much I tried, we kept ending up in the same place, back at that cursed bridge. The darkness was closing in fast and panic was setting in. I had nothing but a water bottle and my music player. This was supposed to be a quick trek, not an overnight ordeal. Desperately, I shouted for help, but there was no response. The kid clung to the back of my shirt, his grip tightening with each passing moment. "Don't leave me, please," he whispered, his voice trembling. The fear in his voice matched my own, and I felt an overwhelming sense of responsibility. But as I kept shouting into the void, all I heard were the distant sounds of birds and crickets. The night had fully descended, and I could barely see anything around us. In the darkness, I reached for the kid's arm, trying to reassure him. The moment I touched him, though, my skin crawled. He was ice cold, unnaturally cold, like a corpse. A chill ran down my spine. I had worked in a hospital to know what death felt like, and this kid is dead. I stumbled back, my heart pounding as the wind picked up, rustling the trees around me. In a panic, I fumbled for my music player and used its weak light to look at the kid. He was still crying, but something was off. "Why? What happened?" he asked between sobs, voice trembling. I tried to convince myself that maybe it was just the cold air that made him feel icy. Deep down, I knew that wasn't it. No child should be that cold and still standing. I knew he was dead. Then, under the pale light of the rising moon, I saw him clearly. He had changed. Where he had once looked like a normal scared kid, he now appeared horrifying, like a decayed corpse. His skin was rotting, and one of his eyes was missing. His jaw hung loosely, almost detached from his face, and his clothes were tattered and dirty. The atmosphere around us was suffocating, cold and dark, with a weight that pressed down on me. I was so terrified that I couldn't form coherent words. All I could manage was to scream, "Leave me! Stay away from me!" My voice echoed through the empty woods as I desperately tried to back away, but somehow we were back at the bridge again. I crawled backward, not taking my eyes off him, making sure he couldn't get to me. But he kept coming, slowly, like a broken doll, reaching out for me with that haunting voice, asking what was wrong. I didn't know what to do. Out of sheer desperation, I stood up and did the only thing I could think of. I jumped off the bridge. The icy water below swallowed me, and as I sank, I could still see him above, his figure distorted by the water. His voice echoed in my head, not sinister, but pleading, a cry for help. But he was too terrifying, too wrong for me to stay with him. Then everything went black. The next thing I remember is the sound of sirens. I was lying on the bridge, surrounded by paramedics, with a crowd of onlookers staring down at me. I was conscious but weak, the lingering fear still gripping me. I saw streetlights that hadn't been there before. The bridge now had a road leading to it, as if it had always been there. But something about that place was still wrong. The darkness wasn't just a lack of light, it felt like something far more sinister. Months passed, and I heard about another incident at the bridge. A man had died after falling from it. Rumors began to spread, stories about how, before the bridge was built, a sacrifice had been made to ensure it would stand strong. The sacrifice had been a young boy.